Hello and welcome to the TV enthusiast discussion of Game of Thrones, episode 8 of season 5, Hard Home. This, going by internet reaction, is the most popular episode of the season, bar none. Perhaps one of the better episodes of the series as a whole. I'm your host Tyson. I'm joined today by Will, as always, with our Game of Thrones discussions. So Will, what did you think of Hard Home?
Best episode yet of the season, definitely, by a long shot.
This is another strange moment where we got this amazing episode 8, whereas like it used to always be the episode 9, and those are still spectacular. But last season had Oberyn versus the Mountain on episode 8, and that whole episode was amazing. And then the ending, of course, was crazy.
You didn't get that shocking moment this episode, though. There wasn't like any shocking, like, oh my god, that moment hasn't happened. They might be saving that for the next episode or even episode 10.
Yeah, but we did get a pretty crazy, tense moment that's kind of much talked about right now, involving the White Walker King, the Night's King, as he's called. I'll get into more of that later, but we're going to kind of do that last. So we're going to kind of start off with some of the other stuff, because it wasn't just that scene. Like, this whole episode was good. Every time we were with a character and they'd cut away to another one, I was like, no, I want more of that scene. Like, it's so good, you know?
There was like so many good character moments. Like, there was no boring, nothing dragged or was boring. Everything was interesting. What I really loved is we finally got back to Arya.
Yeah.
We finally got a clearer picture of what Arya's doing, what the House of Black and White is all about. You know, we got a clearer picture of what that, because before it was kind of mysterious. We didn't really know. She was cleaning corpses. She wasn't doing much of anything of note, and there was no hint to where that was going. And so now we finally got a clearer picture, and it's very interesting. It's like,
he's doing a little espionage this episode.
Yeah. She enjoys it. You see there's a smile on her face in that one scene. She enjoys it.
She's good at that. I mean, that's something that she's done before. She's had to lie about who she is since she's left King's Landing. And she's gone by so many different names. You know, she's called herself No One, and she's, what was the name she was calling herself when she was trying to pass as a guy with the people heading up towards the Night Watch?
Oh, geez, I forgot.
She had a name she was going by then. She's been going by all these different names and stuff, hiding her identity. She was hiding, kind of in plain sight with Tywin Lannister in season 2, and so she's been doing this for a while. So this is kind of her in her element, except that this time she's not like basically being hunted where she is. She's the one hunting. So she's using these skills she's got from trying to escape, and now she's the one hunting.
It's kind of interesting, too, the training she's undergoing. It's not like what she was doing before, where she was just lying about her identity, but it's more like, it's a more transformative, like, becoming this new identity.
It's method acting.
It's method acting. It's like,
I will become this person.
I will become this person to make the lie more complete,
Mm-hmm. It was a great line that Jaqen had, where he said, "You're gonna follow this guy until you know more about him than you do about yourself." Not, of course, meaning about Arya, but about who she's pretending to be.
Right? Yeah, about who she's pretending to be.
And then he gave her something looks like poison to deliver justice. So it's going to move right on to assassination, it looks like.
We got to like where they were all about, because he's like, okay, the captain made this bet with this gambler, whereas the captain of the ship wins the bet if he dies, and the gambler loses if he lives, or the gambler wins the bet if he lives. And the question was, why would the captain make such a bet? It's because, well, the captain is gambling that if he dies, the money goes to his family.
Insurance.
Yeah. But then explain, well, what's preventing the gambler from just not giving that money to his family at all? What can they do to him if he keeps the money? And says that's where his order comes in.
No.
To them, they exact justice, and that is what it's all about.
And the waif is what she's called in the book, so that's what people are referring to. The kind of girl that's besides Arya that seems to be for a while. She's called the waif in the book. She doesn't think Arya is ready. Jaqen H'ghar's comment to that was, "It doesn't matter than the many-faced god." Like,
yeah. Ready or not, it doesn't matter.
Valar Morghulis. All men must die.
Exactly. She's gonna die either way. So in the grand scheme of things, so that was definitely cool. We got to see Tyrion interact with Daenerys.
Oh, finally! That's something that hasn't even happened in the books. So book readers were like blown away because this has not happened in the books yet.
Okay, so this has not happened in the books yet. So geez, the show writers got to scene before George R. Martin.
And they did it perfectly. It went exactly as you'd want it to, the conversation between the two. You really get to see how naive Daenerys is when she's put up with somebody like Tyrion who's really smart, Yeah. You really get to see where she's been lacking. She's had good like military strategic advice and stuff like that, but Tyrion comes in and basically like schools her, and
he really hasn't had like a really solid advisor.
Yeah,
to tell her what
for military and stuff, but not like for anything like this.
Not for like political, like the act of ruling.
Mm-hmm. So it's exciting to see Tyrion in that role. That's kind of what we were talking about, how she has like all these people surrounding her and everyone's kind of either sucking up to her or kind of, doubting her, and nobody's really telling her what she needs to hear. And then we have Tyrion comes here, does it like in the first episode, Basically. Yeah. First episode they interact, he's already told her what she needs to hear,
Yeah, exactly. That is wonderful. The scenes with Cersei were also really good. Just keeping her in that state, in a state
too proud to beg or confess, as the woman would say. Not too proud to drink off of a dirty floor.
Yeah, right.
But too proud to do it in front of others.
We see her in a position we have never seen her before in the series at all. And
I don't think she's ever been in that position. Perhaps emotionally, but not, not as far as power goes and stuff. No, this is the first time. And then you have, like her son is just basically shut himself in. He's not going to do anything.
No, he's not.
He just doesn't know what to do. Her uncle's home and just doesn't give a shit. He's just like, oh well.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't care for her anyway, so it's like.
So she's alone. The only person in the world she has that could come to help her is Jaime, and he's off in Dorne, captured right now.
Although I got the impression they were letting him go at the end of the last episode. I don't know.
They don't want to start a war. And they know that if they do something to Jaime, it'll start a war. Martell, the prince there, Prince Doran, he doesn't want to start a war. He wants revenge, I think, but he doesn't want to start a war with his revenge. He'd be more like the type to like kill them, but like make it look like it wasn't him,
It looked like an accident.
Yeah. He wants it, but he doesn't want to put his people at risk and stuff. So,
well, I think those were the plot lines, the 3 other plot lines that we got through.
There's some more. There's some more I want to touch on. Well, first on the.
No, there was. yeah, there was Sansa. There was the bit with Sansa and Reek
There
or
was also
Theon.
at the wall with Ollie and Samwell.
Yep. Ollie and Samwell.
But let's talk about Sansa and Reek. So Sansa finally got to learn something the audience has known since season 2.
That her brothers are alive,
Yeah.
and now she wants to find them. Like good luck from her position. Like nobody even knows where they are anyway. It's like that seems like kind of a futile quest.
Well, we know where one of them is. The audience.
Rickon kind of went off his own way. We actually
he's off with Osha.
Yeah.
I think that's her name, Osha, the wildling.
Yeah, the wildling. We don't actually know where they went. As far as the viewers are concerned, we don't know what they did or what happened to them. We know where Bran is or where we last saw Bran.
Apparently, in the book, basically, Rickon hasn't shown up since he left either in the book. So,
okay, so he just disappears.
Yeah. I guess George R. R. Martin kind of has that chess piece put aside. If he wants to play it, he can bring it out later, or he can just have him kind of off in the wilderness somewhere.
Yeah.
But I wanted to touch on one more thing with Tyrion and Daenerys, and that's Jorah and the situation with Jorah. I really thought it was cool that Tyrion was able to kind of save Jorah, but also kind of condemn him at the same time, basically saying you have to get rid of him or something like that, knowing that, I think it's not just that it's the only way he'd be able to have Jorah spared in any way or something. It's not just that, but I think there's an element of real truth to that as well.
I think Tyrion was just keeping it real. I mean, I don't think it was like because he was trying to spare Jorah or because he was given a chance to give the queen his honest advice. And if he's going to be her advisor, he's got to advise her honestly and to the best of his ability. And that is what he did.
And his first piece of advice is mercy for those that love you.
Yes.
Which was pretty cool. And it's something that she needs to hear. And not only that, but I also like the way he put it with Jorah. You can't have Jorah around because he doesn't trust you enough to know that you'll forgive him.
Right. It also like ties back into like his advice, mercy for those who love you. Also ties back into earlier in the season when she executed that guy. When when he murdered, he did it out of love and devotion to her. And she executed him, and that caused like a crap storm to happen. And that ties into exactly Tyrion's advice, which is you can't kill those devoted to you.
Yeah. It was a great moment. I loved the dialogue between the two of them. It's so great, like I wish this would have happened sooner and we could have had more, I wanted a whole season of this.
Next season it will get an entire season of that.
Well, depending, we still have episode 9 to get through.
In like next episode or something.
We still have an episode 9 to get to. For all we know, like the entire continent of Essos just explodes. We have no idea.
I know, right? Aliens abduct Tyrion or something.
Yeah.
Tyrion seems to always like he always seems to have like some kind of hardship or trial like every season. I don't think any season of the show has been easy for Tyrion. There's like the first season where he gets captured, or then he has to like do the battle to the death, and then like the second season where he has to lead that battle, and then the third season where he's just,
just treated like shit. He basically saved the city, and they're like, like stay in this dark, dank room.
Yeah, stay in this dark, dank room. Then he gets arrested, and then he has not had an easy path through this whole show. So like every season, something happens. So I'm expecting next season something else is going to happen to Tyrion. He's not going to really be her advisor because something is going to happen to him like it always does.
It's going to transition to Tyrion.
Yeah, Tyrion.
I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy with Tyrion. Yeah, God, I just want more Tyrion Daenerys stuff. That was so good. I just wanted to keep watching it. And then, it would cut away and I'd be like, no. And it would go to like Arya and she's like kind of in her new look strolling through the town. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then would cut away from her and it's like, no, fucking Cersei again. Then it's like, you see the scene with what's his name? Qyburn or whatever his name is, the guy, the maester that she's befriended or whatever, that the one that's experimenting on the body of the mountain,
Yeah, I don't think
that scene, and that's amazing because you're learning all this stuff about basically like where she really is and the new lows that she really is at, which is worse than what we saw at the end of last episode. And it cuts away and it's like, no, I want to see her wallow.
Yep.
We've got one more area to talk about before we hit the main topic. And that is something I feel is going to play in bigger.
What? They were planning what they're going to do about Stannis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Ramsay Bolton he said, give me 20 men. And so they're planning to do something like a strike or something against Stannis. And that was set up this episode, which I'm guessing we're going to see that play out the next episode, or maybe even episode 10.
So how do you want Ramsay to go? Joffrey got poisoned. I honestly think that like Sansa needs to kill him.
Yeah, Sansa needs to kill him.
I think that's how she can kind of get her agency back. But part of me is like, oh no, screw that. Have the Red Woman have him. I want to see what she would do to him. What kind of fucked up magic she'd use on him.
What? Just you do the spell that she did on Rob Stark and Joffrey that killed them.
Yeah.
I think it's been heavily implied that spell that was cast played a large role in their deaths.
It seemed to influence events or something, like an indirect way.
In an indirect way, yeah.
Yeah. Watching him burn alive would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Right?
But if that happens, I want Sansa to walk up and take the torch from Melisandre and do it herself.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. That's how she needs to get her agency back, as a person. But yeah, there's the scene I was talking about was different than that. And that's the scene with Ollie at the wall talking to Samwell.
Okay.
I feel like this is going to play into something bad because Samwell had this kind of moment where he was telling him, sometimes you have to make a hard choice that is unpopular, but in the long run is good. It seemed like Ollie took that in the wrong way.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was thinking it's good, honest advice that is going to be taken in completely the wrong way.
Yeah,
and it's going to be a disaster. And I'm like, of course.
And Jon Snow's not back yet. They're still not allowed in. The gate's still closed. He's Lord Commander, but that doesn't mean the men he commands are going to open those gates and let him back in.
Right, exactly.
So there's lots that can happen in that. It looks like he got away safe. It's like not necessarily. You have this everything that's going there. We after this ending of the last episode, which we'll get to.
Are we gonna kill off?
It really raises the stakes of like how important it is that Jon was completely right. Like the Night's Watch people that were with Jon like you can see them now. They're like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yep.
This is
You're right. Okay, so let's talk about the battle, the big
Let's
event.
talk about why he was right.
Yeah.
So John shows up in Hardhome.
Hardhome.
Meets with the wildlings, meets a giant there, meets a new female character, who's I've been hearing a lot of people mentioning she's I guess the villain of the new Pitch Perfect movie. I don't know, I haven't seen it.
I don't know, I haven't seen that either.
But I've been hearing that mentioned a lot. So they show up, another one of the Thens. Meet the Lord of Bones again. Basically in a very hostile environment coming out there. And then we have John basically beseeching these people, saying, look, come south of the wall. We'll give you land to farm. We'll give you what you need to get away.
They're a threat far bigger than all of us and our petty squabbles. And we just put them aside for a minute and face this together.
And some of them don't want to face it. They don't want to deal with it. They're like, I'm never going to ally with, I love the one line was that one of them said, if I joined with the crows, it's like my sisters would spit in my face or something. And then the one female one that's there said like, so would mine, but they're dead. So fuck it.
Yeah, I like that pretty much.
Yeah. So, you see them and they're kind of getting ready, making preparations to get some of them out of there. And then you start to see some wind come in. You start to see the winds of winter kind of drift in. You see some snow building up. You hear the dogs start howling. And you're like, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah, no, I was like wondering what's happening. What shit is about to go down? And then it's like, boom, there it is, an army of White Walkers, just the army of the dead.
Yeah.
Bashing through those gates. Like
not just the whites, but like at least it looked like 5 White Walkers too. So it's geez.
5 like all army. I guess technically they're all White Walkers, aren't they?
No, the dead are whites. They're just reanimated corpses.
Oh, okay, they're white.
The White Walkers are like the different looking ones.
Okay, they're different creatures then, right?
Yeah, so the whites don't actually even really have their own will. They're like slaves, basically.
Oh.
They're like zombies in the original meaning of zombies before it had anything to do with the dead. When it was about like people that were like kind of being controlled, but dead as well.
But dead as well. So they're like zombies in both sense.
Yeah.
So Game of Thrones goes full Walking Dead in this episode.
But they're fast zombies. They're like 28 days later. Those whites are running.
Poor Rick Grimes, he did not survive this episode.
No, he did not. He was too busy yelling, Carl!
Carl! Carl!
So this was a pretty crazy battle. This has gotten kind of all the attention. From like this whole season, everyone's just been going, oh my god, gushing about this scene.
It was everything you could have hoped for when you saw like the White Walkers attack, or when you finally got to see like all the build up, because they've been teasing the White Walkers throughout all the seasons, they've been teasing it. There's an army of the dead. We've seen them. We've seen Samwell kill one. We've seen the king turn a baby into a White Walker. All these teases. And it's been leading up to this, and this did not disappoint.
Winter is here.
Winter is here. And it's like, wow. And then freaking Jon Snow, when he killed that White Walker with his Valyrian steel sword, I freaking cheered. I was like, yeah, that
How
was
crazy is it? Not even just the resurrecting the dead, but those White Walkers, they use their little ice weapons, hit somebody else's sword, and it just shatters.
Yeah, just
How
shattered.
disheartening is that? That's like, oh God, you know?
Yeah, he shattered John's sword, his original sword, and so he was like kind of like dodging, moving around. Then he picked up his Valyrian steel sword, and he brought it up, and it hit that spear, and John was fully expecting it to shatter like his last sword, but
So was the White Walker.
so was the Walker fully expecting. But when it didn't, when it held up, they were both surprised. And I think the White Walker was surprised, John was surprised, but then John took that initiative and he used that to finish him off with the sword, and it was fantastic.
Now I didn't see this one part, but I've heard about it, so I'm gonna rewatch this episode just to see this scene. But what I heard was that when the White Walker is in the house that's on fire, that the fire is like pushing away from him. Like it's like almost like the fire itself is scared of the White Walkers.
I did not notice that.
I'm gonna have to rewatch and check that scene just because.
And I noticed like
fascinating.
The king, the Night's King, I guess, was watching John as he took down that White Walker, and I think he took a special interest in Jon Snow after that.
Yeah.
It seems
John's got a lot of people who have taken a special interest in him.
Yeah. It seems like the king of the White Walkers has now taken a special interest in Jon Snow. And you could even see that at the end when John's like sailing away from the place in the boat, and the king walks up to the shore and looks John straight in the eyes as he raises all the people they just slaughtered as whites under his command. And you know,
basically just as your army shrinks, mine grows.
Basically just showing off, being a freaking show off, like trying to like instill that, fear and intimidation into John in particular. And it was
I'm going to tell you a little bit about a little bit I know about the Night's King, who's this king of the White Walkers. In the books, Old Nan tells Bran a story about a former Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. This is one of the early ones. So this is like 1,000 years ago or something. He saw a beautiful woman with pale skin and blue eyes on the other side of the wall, and he left his duties and to pursue her, and he ended up marrying her, and he came back like twisted and declared himself king of the night in Castle Black, and had basically taken over the wall and the position and became like king of that castle for his own reasons outside of his duties as the Night's Watch. And they ended up kind of casting him out or casting him away or getting him away. But then Ygritte tells Jon at one point that they have stories in the north as well, and that one of them is about how their King Crow or Lord Commander saw something in the woods and became the Night's King or something, or declared himself the Night's King. And weird. So that's the story. So this White Walker is apparently a Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, or a former Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Basically,
like Jon Snow. So
what?
Like Jon Snow is Lord Commander of the Night's Watch now.
So yeah.
He was former, so it's kind of like they're similar in a way, or maybe he notices like some kind of similarity in Jon to himself.
Even more so, in Old Nan's story to Bran, she said some people say that the Night's King was a Bolton. Some say it was a whatever, something else. It's all, but he wasn't. He was a Stark.
Oh, he was a star. That's an interesting. Yeah.
and she said he slept in this very castle, maybe in this very bed, or in this very room in this very bed. She said to Bran. She said maybe his name was even Brandon or something. Because there have been a few Brandon Starks.
Maybe his name was even Brandon. Technically, Jon Snow isn't a Stark, though.
So. He's a Snow, but he's Stark blood.
He's Stark blood. Yeah, for sure.
Even if my theory is correct, he's still Stark blood. He'd be Stark and Targaryen blood.
He'd be Stark and Targaryen blood, yeah.
But no matter what, he's Stark blood.
Yeah, no matter what.
So John's looking at one of his ancestors, apparently, or relatives of some sort.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If legend is true.
Yeah, it's a story. So, stories can be twisted and told in different ways. And Game of Thrones has made use of unreliable narrative before, so...
well, what makes me skeptical that it's necessarily a Stark is that the story, or the idea that it's a Stark, came from, a member of the Stark household telling the story to a Stark child.
Yeah.
And so, that may have been just an added wrinkle to make it more exciting to Bran.
Mm-hmm. That's, you have that. Just because somebody says something in a story doesn't mean it's 100% true in the world of that story.
Right.
Characters can lie or embellish as well as people can, and that's what's kind of interesting about the Night's King is that he's never shown up in the books. They've never seen him. That's the only references like that. That's all there is of the Night's King. There's no
so
him turning baby. There's no him showing up.
Baby.
There's no baby scene that we know of. There's there's stories in the book about the White Walkers taking babies, stuff like that. But we don't know why. Like, we haven't seen it, in the books. They don't actually, because the books all take place from somebody's perspective.
Right.
So they shift around. So the chapter will be named Arya 3 or something. It'll be the third Arya chapter, and it'll be kind of from her perspective of things.
So the scene,
there's no one seen this stuff with the White Walkers because there's no White Walker perspective character.
No White Walker's perspective, and nobody else is going to be there to witness it from their perspective. Yeah. And so that's one of the advantages the show has, where the show is not necessarily told through any POV. It's from a third-person POV overlooking everybody else's story.
Exactly. So they can show things in a much more cemented way. And they've done that before, even with conversations. There have been conversations where a character has mentioned something kind of in inner narration. And then they've actually played out that same information in a conversation between two people.
Right.
Which has never happened in the books, but they needed to convey that information in some way. So and it's not like they were going to just suddenly have narration.
Where the show has deviated from the books, and that we fully see the Night's King, especially now. And even in that scene, in the books, that could be written from Jon Snow's perspective, because he was clearly confronting Jon Snow at the end of the episode.
But this didn't happen in the book either. In the book, there was no huge battle. It was there's just basically been stories and stuff, people been hearing that groups of wildlings have been disappearing and stuff like that.
So the books are still in teasing and building up this. They haven't actually gotten to a payoff. So now the show has not only had Daenerys and Tyrion interact for the first time, but they also got into one of the big payoffs of the White Walker storyline before the novels has.
Yep.
So
Yep. It's funny, there's all sorts of stuff going around. There's there's a picture of the Night's King from this episode, and it says at the top, this isn't in the book, said nobody ever.
Really?
Because everyone just complains about what's not in the book or something, but nobody's complaining about this.
So, so like, basically, there's a Game of Thrones thread on NeoGAF, right, where it says Game of Thrones, no book spoilers. And I'm thinking now they have to change that to no show spoilers.
The book thread, yeah.
Like, because we're now at that point. We're beyond the looking glass here, people.
Good stuff. I cannot wait for the next episode. Do you think they're going to top it? Do you think episode 9 is going to be bigger than episode 8?
Jeez, I know there's not going to be any major White Walker battles, so I don't think so.
What do you think we have left to come up? What do you think? Let's go through the main storylines. Like Arya, what do you think is going to happen?
Arya
season, not just next episode.
Arya is going to trip on a banana peel and get a concussion and die in a shocking turn of events.
The yellow wedding. she'll be walking past a wedding. That's why it'll be called the yellow wedding.
That won't be like. I don't know. I think somebody big is going to come to a shocking fate in the next episode, at least one of the next 2 episodes. I think maybe Jorah, maybe something, because
he's already marked.
They're doing something with. They're clearly doing something with Jorah. All right, yeah. Because he got the stone disease, and now he wants to fight for Daenerys in this big epic fight, and Daenerys doesn't want anything to do with him, and I don't even know why he's still trying. He's goddamn this guy. He is like he is a simp. He is a simp for the ages. I don't know.
Nobody has reached this far into the friend zone before.
Yeah, I know.
Oh God, yeah, he's bad.
So I think maybe something major is going to happen with Jorah. I think that's what's
dead at the end of this episode, or crazy from the stone.
Crazy from the stone. He'll go crazy from the stone, and he'll do something crazy and shocking. He might even kill Tyrion. I don't know, but I'm expecting
riots in the street.
But that's what George R. Martin wants. He just wants people to riot. he just writes this because he's hoping to cause real world violence to erupt. Come on.
He's like a real follower of the many-faced God. He causes like riots, people kill each other, and he just sits in his room and goes, Valor Morghulis.
God is something George R. Martin invented. Well, it is, but it's a delusion in his mind that tells him to write these stories and cause chaos because he's truly devoted to the many-faced God.
This is the meta Game of Thrones discussion.
Yeah.
So you think something's Arya? Do you think she's going to kill somebody? You think that's going to be the end of her storyline this season?
Well, maybe of the season. I don't know. It's not going to be something as straightforward as she poisons this guy like she's supposed to.
Yeah.
That's way too straightforward and quaint. I mean, there's obviously going to be layers to it. Maybe there's probably stuff. Not probably. There's 100% for sure stuff to it that Arya does not know or does not see, that they're not letting her in on. Like, they got other motives for why they're doing what they're doing besides just like being agents of justice, I think.
Do you think that season's going to end with her leaving Braavos, like no longer wanting to be a faceless man? You think that it's going to come to its conclusion this season?
I don't think so. I think it'll play out more next season, and I think that's something more likely to happen next season than this season in 2 episodes.
So this season she'll maybe get a little deeper.
Yeah, I think this season she'll get a little deeper into it. Maybe she'll start to learn things that might make her a little bit uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that will happen like towards the end of the last episode. She'll probably discover something that she doesn't like about it. And then that will be a thread picked up in the next season.
Okay, what about Sansa, Ramsay, the Boltons, Stannis? What do you think's going to happen with that?
There is going to be Ramsay's attack on Stannis. That is going to definitely be a big focus.
Success or failure?
Probably a mix. I want to say a bit of a draw there. I don't think it's going to go the way either party wants it to go necessarily.
Ultimate fates, though. What do you think for those characters?
I don't know. Well, I'm thinking that Ramsay's little attack damages Stannis enough to where he does start to seriously consider sacrificing his daughter to win this, like the Red Woman is suggesting.
That could do it, yeah.
Yep, that could do it. I'm thinking that's what happens.
Yeah, that would be heartbreaking, especially.
I think that might even be like the big shocking scene of like the end of the season. Stannis killing his own daughter.
Jeez.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm starting to like see these threads and see where they're going, and it's making a lot of sense. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not liking this.
What about Ramsay? What about Sansa? You think that's going to be resolved this season?
I don't think so. I mean, come on. The Theon and Ramsay wasn't resolved in one season. I don't see anything getting resolved in the next 2 episodes with this. Because it's not like Sansa can just run away. I think Theon hammered that home this episode. The running away isn't an option.
I think Ramsay's going to die this season, honestly.
I think Ramsay's going to die this. I hope he's going to die this season. I should say I hope. Even if he does die, Sansa's still captured by the Boltons. I don't think the Boltons are getting displaced at the end of the season. Even if Ramsay dies, the Boltons still have Sansa. I don't think she's going anywhere for the time being.
What about the Faith Militant and Cersei and
we're definitely gonna get some sort of,
and Marjorie and her brother too.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get some sort of resolution to that. I just don't know what that resolution is gonna be.
You think we're gonna have the trial?
We're definitely gonna have the trial. I just don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. Like, I know the outcome is they're going to find Cersei guilty, obviously. They're going to find everybody guilty because they're fanatics. Everybody's guilty. When it comes down to it. So, yeah, they're going to find that guilty. But whether or not Cersei finds a way, like Jaime comes home and maybe he, like, defeats them or they find a way to defeat them, that's the big question.
How about Dorne? Speaking of Jaime,
I think the Dorne storyline's finished. I think Jaime's coming back. To King's Landing in order to help finish off the High Sparrow storyline. Dorne's storyline is done because there's not really anything else to do there. There's, obviously Jaime's niece. She wants to stay there. She wants to marry the Dorne prince. He can't do anything about that. They're not going to keep Jaime. The assassins are in jail. That's pretty well wrapped up.
I think we're gonna get something with Doran, the Prince of Dorne. I think we're gonna see a bit more of his
or something, and then we might see like
because they got a really good actor for him, and I think they're gonna give him something meaty. Towards the end of the season. I think so. What else is there? That's
Jon Snow storyline. I think that's done for the rest of the season. We're not going to go back to that.
Well, he still has to get back into Castle Black.
Yeah, but
he's not home yet. You think that's just smooth?
I don't know if we're going to revisit that this season or if we're going to revisit him next season, because I think he's had his big scene, his big moment for the season.
Well, we'll find out. We got episode 9 coming up. This has traditionally been the huge episode. Of course, last season, I think the best episode was episode 8, and we just had another amazing episode 8. So next episode could be just down key again for all we know. But I don't know. It seems like things are starting to kind of ramp up in certain areas. So
a lot of balls. Anything can happen. So
yeah.
I wouldn't count out an amazing episode 9.
Yeah, episode 9, and we got episode 10 as well, as usually when they start to kind of set up what's coming next. The kind of like, reel you in for next season.
Episode 10 is usually the denouement to what has happened in that episode. Like the shocking stuff happens previously to episode 10, and then episode 10 is kind of like the aftermath of that, winding down those storylines. Wow.
And the tease of what's to come in the next season.
And a tease of what's to come in the next season. So nothing really major tends to happen in the 10th episodes.
Pretty big stuff actually does. It's just usually not like a shocking thing so much as it is just like a lot of the big fantasy kind of elements happen.
Sure. Like last season, like it ended with Bran fighting those skeletons and
running into the children of the forest, and
the forest. That was like really cool.
Then the first season, Daenerys got the dragons.
It's funny because
second season is the Army of the White Walkers.
It's funny though because we're saying because the stuff that happened with Bran at the end of last season wasn't at all a setup for this season or any setting up anything happening this season.
Yeah,
that the payoff with that is much further out. So I'm expecting we're going to revisit that next season.
Yeah, I imagine so. I think what Brands did, what they brought him, to, is kind of too important to like completely skip out. It makes sense for them to take a season off with so many other characters and so many other stories to tell. Something had to get cut down, and it makes sense to kind of just cut back in, and we don't have to see Bran's entire journey in the tree. We can kind of cut back and say, like, he's been working at this for a year, and this is where he is now,
This is where he is now.
So the original book was supposed to run 7 books. Actually, it was originally supposed to be a trilogy, and they kept getting inflated. Now it's supposed to be 7 books. The 6th book's supposed to come out next year. George R. R. Martin wants it to come out before season 6 airs. Before they were behind the books as far as like for the seasons. Like at the end of season 3, they weren't at the end of book 3 yet. But now it seems like they're at where the books are. And almost every story. They're at book 5 and they're on season 5. So it's kind of caught up. So does that mean 2 more seasons of TV?
No, they're going to go on. Like it's clear that they said they want 10 or more seasons if they can get away with it.
Do you think that's going to happen though? I don't know if the showrunners are going to want to do that.
The showrunners have said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think HBO executives have said that too. So everybody's on board. That's currently the plan.
They're going to be going past the book stuff for a while then, because they're going to have to be making up a lot of content. See the casting information for next season?
No, I usually don't pay attention to casting information for the upcoming seasons of Game of Thrones, just because I don't really want to read about what's coming up or what's happening, and even casting characters that could be spoilers too for like what's going to happen, and it's like or what the major focal points are going to be. Like if you read the casting information after last season for this, like the Sand Vipers were cast, and
ironically they didn't end up being that big in the season.
yeah. And Yeah, that's true. They didn't end up being that big, and I was expecting them to be bigger than they were, and they didn't. They didn't really do much of anything.
Well, one
Although
of
they,
them got naked, fulfilled some of the nudity quota for HBO.
yeah, I said,
Uh,
crap, there wasn't enough nudity this season. You get naked.
we haven't seen male nudity in a while. It used to be kind of almost even. It was one of those strange shows that actually had quite a bit of full frontal male nudity. And now it's kind of shifted almost all female now. So it's kind of odd. Because it was they had a lot of kind of like awkward male nudity scenes throughout the early like the first couple seasons. Season 1 in particular had several scenes, I remember.
I don't know. I'm not complaining, but
no, but it's like you could see
viewers.
there's been a lot of complaints recently about Game of Thrones. You know, of course, with the rape stuff, but beyond that, also, it's just kind of like the, you know, do we need to have all these women stripping down naked? Do we need this? And I always felt like, you know, if you watch the first season of Game of Thrones and somebody said that, you could say, look, there's a dick, there's a dick, there's a dick.
Right.
Equal opportunity. But
I mean,
that hasn't been the case in like the last couple seasons.
South Park even made reference to it, you know?
Yeah.
Like you know, Butters, you know, the floppy wieners. There's too many floppy wieners.
But we haven't seen many floppy wieners in the last like 2 seasons or so. So it's kind of I'm just interested in that on like the political side of like how people react to it, you know? So you think season 6 is the season of the floppy wiener, right?
Yeah. Tons more male nudity in season 6 than we've seen in any season, every season of Game of Thrones combined.
I saw an interview with the cast where somebody had brought that up, and Samwell volunteered himself. he said, I'll do it. He's all, it's the best of both worlds. He's all, I have breast.
I have breast. There you go, ladies. Get ready for big nude scene is coming on. Apparently the actress who plays Daenerys, you know, she doesn't do like nude scenes anymore. She's shown off her dragon's eggs before on the show.
yeah, she did in the first episode.
In the first episode, but she doesn't want to do it anymore.
And so I don't think she needs to. Like, her character is in a position where it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. It wasn't never necessary for her character, you know.
I think it kind of was in the pilot episode, just to kind of show how much of an object she was being treated as.
Right.
By not just by Khal Drogo, who, like, you know, basically raped her on the wedding night, but also by her brother kind of treating her like a commodity.
Right. Like, he was going to get an army. Her brother was going to gain an army to invade Westeros by selling her to Khal Drogo, and, you know, and that was the plan. And it's like, who she is as a person didn't, you know, she didn't matter. Ultimately, except as a bartering tool. You know,
one of the first really effective kind of creepy scenes in Game of Thrones was when she got out of the bath and he was like grabbing her breast. And it was like basically like he was sizing her up like, you know, you'd see like a horse trainer, like, you know, pat down his horses and check them out before he'd put them up for auction or something, you know? It was like he was sizing up her sex appeal for another man, like, these are plenty good enough. Yes, okay, we'll invite the call now, you know? And it was so creepy, you know, not just because of that, but it's her brother doing that to her, you know?
Yep, definitely.
So I think that, I think her nudity was necessary in the beginning, but now there's just no reason for it, you know? Like, I think, I'm not like against nudity in the show or something. I can understand that. Like, her saying she doesn't want to be naked anymore on the show or something, it's like, well, they don't really have a reason to make her be naked.
I'm not against nudity in general. I think it's silly to like something to be forget. There's too much nudity in the show.
Yeah.
It's people's bodies. It's totally natural. There's also a lot of killing and incest and other stuff in the show. But let's worry about people's penises and boobs. It's like
the end of the world.
Oh no, there's too much nudity in this show.
No, the Super Bowl, Janet Jackson. Oh God.
Oh, people are being beheaded and all kinds of manner of horrible things happening. No, there's too much nudity.
How dare you show Janet Jackson's breast on the internet? I was trying to watch that jihadi beheading video.
I just think that's too much, but I just think our as a society, our attitude towards sex is extremely juvenile and silly.
Puritanical.
Puritanical. It's grow up, people. Come on. Let's just be sure about this and just realize that it's a thing. It's normal.
It's how we're born.
It's how we're born. It's why we exist.
We're all naked under our clothes.
Yes.
I think that's a good point to kind of wrap up on. So I'm excited about what's going to be coming up next week, or not even next week, in the next couple days, 2 days.
2 days. That's one of the benefits of watching this so late is there's not such a long wait now between episodes. I could go off of this high and then jump to the next high with the next episode. And I'm just giddy at what might happen now.
It's going to be sad because we only got 2 episodes left. One's coming up on Sunday, and then in days we have 9 days of Game of Thrones left, which is really sad. But on the other side of the coin, Hannibal just came back.
Yes,
and it is good. I forget, we're gonna have a video Hannibal discussion later, and Will hasn't seen Hannibal yet. All I'll say, I'm not gonna. What?
Talk about blood and gore and all manner of disgusting things. Yeah. That is Hannibal.
I'm not gonna spoil anything or anything. I'm just gonna say that the one thing that you remember how just beautiful that show is. The way it's edited, the way it's shot, just every shot looks like a piece of art, But you forget, even though you remember that in your head, you forget that, how good it actually is. And then you watch it again, and it's like, oh, fuck, this is so good, Right. And so, just the opening sequence, which, I'm not even going to say what it is or what's happening. It doesn't even matter. It's not what happens in the opening sequence is kind of irrelevant. It's not even a big deal or anything. But it's just slow, and it draws out, and it's the way the music fits with it, the lighting, everything. It's just amazing.
This show could have Hannibal reading the newspaper and have it be edge of your seat, riveting television.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what the case is on this episode. It's not the whole episode, but the scene is just, it's some of the best TV I've ever seen, and it's nothing's really happening.
Like a cliche thing to say with the show. It's every episode. I think every episode we're gonna be going, that was the best thing on TV I've ever seen. How can they? They topped it again.
10 minutes later.
Those opening credits were the best thing ever on TV.
But it's so true. It's just the artistry of the way it's put together is, oh God, it's so, and it's not even it's not a spoiler. It's not you have to see the Red Wedding again. It's not even like that. It's it's like you said, he could be reading the newspaper, and just the way it's put together and the way it's shot. And in this scene that I'm talking about, it isn't even a big deal. Nothing's really happening in it, significant. It's not it's a spoiler in any way, but it's amazing. It's visually amazing. Just setting up kind of I think more than anything, what it does is it kind of sets the mood, like the atmosphere and the ambiance. It kind of like pulls you into it, and then the story starts to kind of build from there. And that's what it serves to do, and it's amazing at it, and it's so good, and can't wait for you to watch that, and we can have our discussion on that as well. But for now, we'll have to see you again on Monday, probably, to do our discussion for episode 9 of season 5 of Game of Thrones. We're coming to an end here. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Night.